Welcome, KCIW listeners, to 100.7 and, of course, KCIW.org. We're here in Brookings, Oregon, with Joyously Free. Why? Well, it's me, Joni Lindenmeyer, the author of None Better. I'm also a resident of Harbor, Oregon, and have been for 34 years. I retired from Del Norte High School as a teacher, and of course, I'm a best-selling author now. 3 published books in 2 years. Oh, my gollies. Well, like every morning show that we do, let's begin with our morning salutation. It's a brand new day, and your answer is going to be never been lived before. You
to
got
be
that?
sure.
Okay, so
never been lived before.
All right, let's try it again. It's a brand new day.
Never been lived before.
Oh, absolutely. I love
never
it.
to be lived again.
There you go. I like it. Extra comment there. So this Radio Gadio show, as Will and Viv named it, is a show that talks about LGBTQ plus stories and tips, along with religion, church, faith, spirituality, and joy. Simply put, the purpose of this show is to share, radiate, and spread abundant joy and freedom, hence the title, Joyously Free. It is also the title of my second book that I co-authored with Elizabeth Ann Atkins of twosisterswriting.com. And we are so proud. We will know very soon, July 30th, if we win the 2025 Lambda Award. But meanwhile, let's get back to the radio show. So we don't use any hate speech, no hate behaviors, and no bullying. This show is about 3 C's: courage, confidence, and collaboration. As with every show, we always start with a prayer. So let's center ourselves, asking our Creator to shine light on our community and our world. I excitedly believe in hope, in the power of the divine, and that Jesus, God, whatever name you put on a higher being, is always with me and always with you. So be not afraid or troubled, saddened or depressed. Joy and peace are an internal expression of love and harmony that is already within us, and we only have to reach deep within and let it out. All is well with my soul, for love is abundant and everlasting. So let's center ourselves by relaxing, taking a deep breath in with the good and out with doubt. Let's breathe in through your nose with hope and out from your mouth with any fears. And the last one, take a big deep breath in with joy and out with worry or despair. In the name of our Mother Earth, God our Creator, Jesus our Redeemer, and the blowing winds of the Holy Spirit. Hi, Jesus. Hi, God. Hi, Spirit. Thanks for being with us on this beautiful day. The scripture, or the quote, I should say, came from something I read that somebody sent to me that was about church signs. Have you ever driven by a church and you see a sign out front? Well, here's the quote that I read this morning during my prayer. God prefers kind atheists over hateful Christians. I just love that. I laughed, but it hit my heart as well, that God prefers kind atheists over hateful Christians. And what that does for me, it brings to mind, how am I behaving? How am I responding to people? Am I being hateful? Am I being kind? Would I be considered an atheist if I'm not being Christ-like? Well, that is something to think about. Where do you stand on these issues of atheists and or Christians? Either way, we can all be kind. So that's my little reflection of today, and I hope that you too can have your own reflection about that. Let's lift up our friends and family, asking Creator guidance and healing today. Thank you, Holy One, for hearing and being with us. Bless us to do your will, our Creator God. Amen. So, happy listeners on KCIW. I have a speaker today that I think is going to knock your socks off. And we have become pretty darn good friends. So I'm going to introduce this person as Friend, but it also goes by 3 names. I like to call this person Silky. He also goes by Bob or Robert or Pastor Robert. That's 4 titles. And our title today is Hook Shot to Pulpit Preaching, because this individual can make hook shots like crazy on the basketball court, and he preaches wonderful from any pulpit or from any chair in any audience. So, welcome, Silky Robert Bob O'Sullivan.
Thank you, thank you.
Oh my gosh, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, but I must correct you a bit. When it comes to hook shots, I actually lost my hook shot maybe almost 25 years ago. I pulled a muscle or tore something in my rotator cuff area, and I just can't put up the legendary hook shot that was part of my being Silky.
Okay.
And
okay.
I'm going to be a little autobiographical here because a big change happened in my life in my mid-30s. I didn't get a whole lot of athletic stuff going on in my school days, though I did play some basketball, but not well. I wasn't terribly well coached, and there were gaps. And I, after being in school, wound up having some really interesting jobs as a legislative assistant in the California legislature, as a speechwriter and press representative for people running for office, including on the presidential level. Wow. There I worked for Congressman Morris Udall, who came in second consistently to Jimmy Carter when Jimmy Carter got the Democratic nomination. But anyway, during this time when I was doing a lot of these really interesting jobs as a writer, as a journalist, as a political figure, I didn't get a whole lot of exercise. Mm-hmm. I was driving back and forth a lot to Sacramento. I was on the road quite a bit, and mainly exercise was like walking my dog, and that just wasn't making it. I was getting heavy. I was not real comfortable with all my life. And I wound up getting a job that kind of was a misfit for me. It was at the University of California, Berkeley, as a writer and researcher. And when I say it was a misfit, I was used to dealing with a wide variety of subjects when I was working in the legislature and working for campaigns and that. And here all of a sudden I was going to be writing and editing and researching on one ultimately very dull subject, of all things, public sector labor relations. Uh-huh. And that wasn't good for me. However, there were people I worked with who liked to play basketball. Uh-huh. And we wound up going to Harmon Gym, the main gym of the University of California, and playing after work almost every day. Uh-huh. I lost over 60 pounds.
Wow.
I found out I was a much better player than I ever knew, and a very unusual player. I was left-handed, and probably 85% of the shots I would take would be a hook shot. Now, a hook shot is hardly ever used anymore, but back in those days, there were some famous ones, and I like to think of myself as kind of the Kareem of the 6'2" crop, because Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who was 7'2", was famous for his ability to put up a hook shot from almost anywhere, and I kind of gained that ability. Well, the grant that funded that job eventually ran out, and I was looking for work or collecting unemployment or doing some freelance stuff. But I also wanted to make sure that the gains I had for my body and spirit from playing basketball would be fulfilled, and I couldn't have access to the university facilities anymore. So I just happened to be driving around Oakland looking for places to play in public parks, and found one in a neighborhood I was somewhat familiar with, and just showed up there. Uh-huh. And all of the players that showed up generally there were African American, and some people thought I wouldn't be accepted or whatever, but I just showed up, and I played well enough that I was kind of instantly accepted. And I don't know how long it was, but maybe a week or two, when I made a behind the back pass or a running hook shot from the corner, this voice from heaven called out Silky.
Oh. Oh, boy.
And it became my nickname there, and later in life it became a nickname that my students knew me as, and it changed me in many ways. So that hook shot is an important part. I did study for the ministry early in my life,
The basketball ministry.
well, the Christian ministry,
Oh,
which
okay.
was different from the basketball one.
Okay.
But I kept diverting from that route. I did a ministerial internship in Sacramento, and in the process got to know some people working in the Capitol who got me to meet with someone who had a lot to do with hiring in the Capitol in the Democratic caucus there. And so I had an exciting life, but it wasn't balanced. And it was only when I got to playing basketball regularly and becoming the Silky, I didn't know that I really was. And incidentally, there's a equine part of this all. There used to be a racehorse named Silky Sullivan.
Oh.
And he was famous for starting really slow at the beginning of a race, sometimes almost falling over or whatever.
Oh.
But when push came to shove, he had this enormous speed and won a lot of races with a really comeback even from 20, 30 lengths behind.
Wow. Wow.
And he raced so well. He was a West Coast horse that he was invited to be part of the Kentucky Derby. But in the time it took between his last race and that race, he apparently put on a lot of weight and just didn't do well in that race. But anyway, I identify with that horse, and I think in the whole process, became a more complete person, and that led also to my going into the ministry that I studied for much earlier.
Wow. And that's a universalness of being who you are. Finding, that's what I call joyously free. Oh my gosh, that's a great story. How long did you end up playing basketball for then? Would you say 5 years, 10 years, 20 years of your life?
A good 20, 25. Around the same time I became a pastor, I also became a high school teacher.
Okay.
And part of what made that really an exciting thing is I frequently would play basketball at lunchtime or after school with my students.
Yes.
And I did that until I hurt my shoulder, which I was close to 60. So I had a good 25 years of being real life Silky. Now I just have to remember.
Great. And I think when you're involved in sports, you're involved with people and their lives, and you see what they're like on the court, and then of course you get to see what they're like off the court. And that's a great ministry.
That's a really important thing that I remember. I was not much of a trash talker. I let my shots and passes do my talking. But every once in a while, one player would show up at this public court that I often played at, and if he got the ball, you could count on his taking the ball and running and shooting, often missing, but you could just assume that if he got the ball, that was the only possibility that he had. And so my idea of trash talk was whenever he got the ball was to say, 5-on-1 defense.
Boy.
And but those who understand the game, and it's interesting in watching women's basketball, I think women often understand the game better than men do. But there's...
Is that because of the team approach?
The team approach.
Yes.
And maybe understanding it's sort of a cosmic dance better rather than a aggressive...
show off.
Bullying or whatever that sometimes happens on the court. But it's a way in which people probably express their personalities and who they are, especially in basketball, but in most all team sports, I suppose, and even some of the, when you're playing tennis one-on-one against someone, you're still revealing something about who you are and what what you're like. And
Right.
I find that exciting. And plus the physical exercise is wonderful too.
You bet. Good for your heart, good for your legs. You lost 60 pounds.
Yeah.
You found out who you were. Oh my. So let's go back to your pastorship. You are a pastor of what faith or denomination?
I was a pastor, a Lutheran pastor,
Okay.
in a denomination that's sometimes called Lutheran Church - Missouri Synod, but the dash or the hyphen or whatever it was has frequently disappeared. And it's on the whole, pretty conservative denomination, especially in the central parts of the United States. But on the coastal parts, where the membership tends to be more diverse than that, it's generally considered to be more liberal. I actually no longer belong to that denomination. I'm now a member of an Episcopal church, and but I was in that tradition for quite a while in my life. And it's a tradition that included some wonderful scholars and some I know this might sound like an oxymoron, but wonderful Lutheran civil rights leaders. They were trying to let people in the church know that that kind of hate that you were referring to earlier has a way of permeating people, especially if they have experienced life largely only with people who are like them.
Right.
And I, as a teenager, was quite active in youth work, and we had kind of Northern California, Nevada, and Hawaii part of the youth movement in there, and I was actively involved in that. And as a result of that, later wound up representing them in Europe at a Lutheran World Federation Assembly, and I had other diversions that were directly related to things I learned there, including a couple years in Africa as a journalist.
Wow. Wow.
So in my youth, I was very much involved in church stuff, but not in the traditional ways. But I also recognized early on how ugly and unfortunate hatred against people, whether based on race or sexual orientation or handedness. There are interesting ways in which left-handed people are often different from most right-handed people. And I kind of recognized that early on in my life and just learned to think for myself and make my own assumptions about people based on reality rather than based on hate or based on a sense of superiority of one particular group over the others.
Wow, that is so well said, and I think being left-handed in a right-handed world, especially back then, I know of teachers that would try to force students to write with their right hand if they were left-handed. Or in athletics, they say, no, you need to bat from the right side or and it was like, why? Do your own thing. I've even known people to play guitar, the opposite direction.
Yeah.
And so you've lived through that. You've lived through that.
And what I wish looking back is that I learned to play better right-handed. I call it ambisinistrality training. I didn't want to be ambidextrous, which means having two right hands. I wanted to have like two left hands, which are part of the word sinister in Latin, a word that has all sorts of sinister connotations in English.
Well, you have the brains and you have the brute strength as well, which I absolutely love about you, and the way you combined those two ministries, just sports and pastorship, is amazing. Then you throw in your journalism and your writing and your legislative and politicalness. What a whole person you are, Silky. I admire that about you.
Well, I admire that about you in many ways as well.
Oh, well, thank you. So talk to me about some of your joyous moments in life. What are some of the joyous moments in your life so far?
Well, some, of course, involve my marriage. I was married for 51 years to a very talented woman who was both a musician and an attorney. And after she retired, she became a rather skilled watercolorist as well. And I guess there was a lot of joy as we courted, although that courtship involves times when I was in school in Indiana or traveling in Europe or working in Africa. And it's kind of amazing that we kept in touch and eventually consummated what was a really blessed marriage.
Beautiful.
Other things that are joyous, I think of being a participant in the March on Washington.
Which one was that now?
In 1963.
Ooh, okay.
I had, that was a summer that my Lutheran youth stuff got me to Europe, and coming back, came through New York, and it was nicely timed with when the March in Washington was happening in Washington.
Can you talk a little bit about that? Because there may be listeners out there that don't have a clue of what the 1963 March was.
Okay. First of all, it was actually officially titled the March on Washington for, I'm trying to think exactly how it was titled, but jobs was in the title. It wasn't just civil rights. And which is something a lot of people don't understand about Martin Luther King Jr. He was very much involved in economic justice issues in his ministry through his life, and it wasn't just civil rights. It was peace and justice and especially making up for the way in which Black people especially had experienced gross injustice through enslavement and so forth.
Yep. And in one sense, Juneteenth that we just celebrated a little bit ago is in honor of those rights and those freedoms and no more slavery, that you could be free. You could be joyously free. You have free to do what you want to do with your job and your own business or your own monies or everything.
Yes. And you should get some reparations in one way or another for what happened in the past. Mm-hmm. There are lots of people who have wealth in our country and around the world based on family wealth. Mm-hmm. If their parents and grandparents owned homes that get passed on, or the securities or whatever, that makes for a lot more resources for living a comfortable life.
Exactly. What else for joyous moments?
Other joyous moments, some were accidental. We happened to be in Cuba once, or for a while, and in a resort area, a Cuban band was rehearsing, and we somehow communicated with them that Alice was a pianist, and they invited her to come and join, and she played a very fast and famous piece called Bumble Boogie. Ooh. And whether the drummers there knew the tune or not was not clear, but they right away joined in, and that was a joyous thing too.
Awesome. Your life has been filled with many of them, haven't they?
Yes. And it was joyous to participate in the 50th anniversary of the Selma March. Oh. I was out of the country when it happened originally, but that was a joyous thing too. Although there's a sadness element there, because I just assumed by now race relations in this country and justice issues would be resolved much better than they have been. And hate is coming on, and it's often accompanied by a total misunderstanding of the Christian gospel.
Do you want to end up with some final comments related to that?
Yes. A friend of mine is a scholar who has called attention to hate between religious groups in Brazil. Brazil got 40% of all the enslaved people that came from Africa, and many of them kept some of their old religious traditions and formed their own kind of equivalents of almost a combination of compound and church and school and holy place, and there is extreme discrimination against them by Pentecostal and evangelical Christians who say they're devil worshipers and do everything they can to drown them out, including drowning out the sacredness of the drum. And my friend who's written a book about this asked me to think about other things in world history where really ugly hate has shown itself that has a religion as its base.
Yes.
And it can be within a religion when it's different denominations or different traditions or different ideas of what's the ultimate truth prevail, or it can be between Christians and other denominations or other religions that are not directly related to Christianity.
Wow.
And if you look back in history, there's been lots of hate and lots of ugliness throughout the world based on religious hate. And in Brazil, race plays a factor in it as well.
Well, yeah, and there is hate everywhere. But at the same time, you are a man that gives hope, Silky. And I want to thank you for being on the radio show today, because all of your life experiences have led to these wonderful moments that you've shared with us. And I'm hoping that the people that have listened today have picked up some of your tips, some of your challenges, some of your thoughts. And so we want to thank everybody, Southern Oregon and Northern California people, for listening in. We invite you to get a hold of anybody at KCIW or myself. But we want to mostly just say thank you for listening in, for being a part of the show. We ask that you send any comments or anything to KCIW. You can send them to Tom Bozak, Candace, Rose, and or myself. So on behalf of all of us, we wish you a beautiful day. Thank you so much again, Silky, for being here. Have a big smile, wear bright colors, and let's love, not hate. Thank you, everybody.
KCIW wishes to thank Marie and Brett Curtis of RE/MAX Coast & Country Real Estate in Brookings, Oregon, for their major support of community radio. If you're looking to purchase a home in this wonderful coastal region or thinking about selling, the team at RE/MAX Coast & Country can help. Located in downtown Brookings at 703 Chetco Avenue, coastaloregonhomes.com. Phone 541-412-9535.
Grab your screwdriver and a household appliance and prepare for dismantling.
Part of what I would really love for people to do is very safely dismantle things, even if they might seem like really simple things.
We look at the modest inventions that hold our world together as we get down to the nuts and bolts on the next Big Picture Science.
My name is Trevor Lilburn. I'm a petty officer in the United States Coast Guard. When you're out on a boat, you need to be wearing a Coast Guard approved life jacket at all times. Don't just have a life jacket next to you in the boat. When an accident happens, you won't have time to grab it and put it on. From the time you leave the dock to the time you're done for the day, as long as your boat is in the water, you should have a life jacket on. The Coast Guard reminds you that the beaches and waterways of the Pacific Northwest are majestic, but they can also be treacherous. Remember, treat Mother Nature with the respect that she deserves.
You've tuned in to KCIW-LP out of Brookings, Oregon on 100.7 FM. We're Curry Coast Community Radio, a nonprofit corporation providing a free and open medium for the sharing of creative content, thoughts, and opinions on the air. Our organization is entirely volunteer-powered, and all generously donated funds go towards the maintenance of the station, its equipment, and its programming. If you would like to become one of our fantastic donors, visit us on our website, kciw.org. Check on the tab that says Donate.
Thanks to Dr. John Kirk, MD, and Cynthia Parento for becoming major supporters of KCIW. John's passion for crafting beer led him to purchase Porta Pints Brewery and has now expanded by opening Porta Pints South Beach in the Crescent City Harbor. 2 axe-throwing pits, 4 pool tables, English darts, classic arcades, shuffleboard, and yes, lots of cold craft beer. Dr. Kirk and Cynthia invite you to visit Crescent City soon. There's a world of change going on. PortOfPites.com.
Thank you for listening to Curry Coast Community Radio, your community-supported radio station at 100.7 FM on your radio dial. If you liked this program and want to hear more like it, consider becoming a KCIW member. For more information, go to kciw.org or click on Membership. We'd love to have you as part of our team.